Ange Giannetti, Deposition, Part 1. We're starting off with pages 24 through 26. Or It Ends With Us, and those both refer to the film It Ends With Us. Okay? Understood. Where are you currently employed? Sony Pictures. And what is your position? Executive Vice President Production and Senior Creative of Columbia Pictures. Are Sony Pictures and Columbia Pictures one and the same? Columbia is a label owned by Sony Pictures. And how long have you worked for Sony Pictures? Over 35 years. What positions have you held during that time period? I started as a switchboard operator, then became an assistant, then became a reader, then became a creative executive, then became a director of development, then became a vice president, then became a senior vice president, then became an executive vice president, then became an executive vice president, and senior creative. Okay, that is quite a journey from switchboard operator to executive vice president and senior creative. What are your duties as executive vice president and senior creative? I find ideas for movies. I develop the screenplay with the producer and the writer, find a director, work with many different departments in terms of budgeting and packaging the film, oversee the prep of the film, the production of the film, and the post of the film until the film is locked. Anything else? No. And the films that you oversee in this regard, are these films that are produced by Sony Pictures or by other production companies? The majority of them are produced by Columbia Pictures. And how often do you work with outside production companies? I work with outside production companies all the time in terms of producers. How often have you worked with another production company who's producing the entire film? Overseeing the production of the film? Yes. I've supervised over 70 films, so a handful, not very many. And how long have you held the position of EVP and senior creative? About a month. The senior creative is a new ad. And what is it? And what are the additional duties as the senior creative? I'm still figuring that out. How long did you hold the position of EVP? I don't know exactly, but 20 years? I don't even remember. It's been that long. It could be 15 years. I don't know. Does 2003 sound right? Sure. So it is over 20. That would be about 22 years. Does that sound right to you? Yes. Who do you report to in your position? Sanford Panich. And what is his title? I'm not even sure. I think he's president of Columbia Pictures or maybe co-chairman. We jump down to page 33. Your mind would trigger your desire to get somebody neutral involved. Floyd, objection to form. And something that was illegal, something that was unethical. Hudson. And would that include sexual harassment or retaliation? Yes. Were you part of the process by which Sony became involved with the film It Ends With Us? Floyd, objection. And can you say the question again? Hudson. Sure. Were you part of the process by which Sony became involved in the film It Ends With Us? Yes. What was your role? I was a creative executive. Do you know how the film first came to Sony? Yes. How did it? We jump to page 38. That was the beginning of a longer process. And how would you describe the synopsis of It Ends With Us? Floyd, objection. And seriously? Hudson, I just would like to hear your view on if you had to give an elevator pitch on what the book was about, what would it be? Floyd, objection. Friedman, objection. And I really don't want to do that. Would it be fair to say that it has themes of romance and female empowerment centered on the lead character, Lily Bloom, on a journey to end the cycle of, I'm assuming this means domestic rather than document, violence? Floyd, objection. And yes. Hudson, were you familiar with Wayfarer Studios before Sony became involved? No. We now jump to page 43. Do you understand, for example, that Sony was the co-financier and distributor of the film? Yes. And did I describe that accurately to your understanding? Yes. And what is the basis of your understanding that Sony was the co-financier and distributor of the film? The Wayfarer would run the picture day to day. There was an agreed upon budget going in, with Sony being capped. And as I recall, the only legal controls we had were the casting of Lily Bloom, an approved screenplay, so any changes to the screenplay, and I can't remember if Atlas was a condition or not. And how did you learn these rights or limits that you just described? From my business affairs. Is that the legal unit that negotiates the contracts? Correct. Did you ever look at the contract yourself? No, I don't think so. We jump down to page 45 all the way through page 55. And that would be something that Sony would typically retain the right to do as the distributor. You're asking a lot of legal questions that I have to be honest, I don't know the legal answers to this. I know the process that I'm familiar with, but typically when you make trailers and posters and spots, there are other people who have to approve it before it's put out. So just to be clear, I'm only asking you about your understanding. I understand that you're not a lawyer, so right. With respect to this film, was it your understanding that Sony had the right to create and release trailers? Friedman, objection. It's my understanding that Sony did create posters and trailers that they shared with other people involved in the movie for approval. Hudson, And so you don't know, sitting here today, who had approval rights. I have an idea, but no, I don't know. What is your idea? I'm sure Miss Lively had approval over certain things, and I'm sure Wayfarer had approval over certain things. Have you ever seen any contract of Miss Lively's with respect to the film? No. Did you understand that Wayfarer initially requested that Mr. Baldoni have final cut rights over the film? Friedman, objection. And I think I did know that, yeah. Hudson, and how did you know that? Because we had to, because we said no, and we had to come up with a mechanism in post for what the final cut would be, which is common. And when you say a mechanism for what the final cut would be is common, what do you mean by that? Since they were the rights holders and we wanted to close a deal, there was a compromise that if the movie tested a certain level at a preview and Justin's cut hit those markers, he would have final cut. And is that referred to as a bake-off? No, that is not. Yeah, I guess that's a bake-off. Hudson, I'll hand the reporter a document that we're marking as Exhibit 2. Exhibit 1. Is that pre-marked? Okay. Sorry, I'm not handing it to the reporter. I'm handing it directly to you. That is Exhibit 1, Giannetti 1. This document is an email from Schuler Moore to Michael Marshall. It is September 27, 2022, to a variety of people, including Miss Giannetti. The subject is, it ends with us, proposed Sony co-production term sheets, Bates stamped, beginning SPE _ BL 343. Exhibit 1, marked for identification. Hudson, Miss Giannetti, have you seen this document before? I don't remember, but it's in front of me, so it's possible. And do you recognize this an email that you received, given your email address is on here? It's the correct email address. I don't remember getting it or reading it, but I'm not saying I didn't. You have no reason to dispute that if your email, I have no reason to dispute. I'm sorry, I'm just going to finish my whole question so we have it clear on the record. You have no reason to dispute that if your email address is on here, that you received this email. Friedman, objection, and correct. Hudson. And at the beginning of the email, it says, as read, Michael, on behalf of Wayfarer Studios attached, please find a proposed term sheet for a co-production for It Ends With Us, which has been discussed with Sony. Do you understand this as the proposal that Wayfarer Studios gave for the co-production agreement? That's what it says, yes. And you mentioned earlier that Wayfarer initially requested that Mr. Baldoni have final cut. Can you turn to the next page? This appears to be the basic terms of the proposal from Wayfarer to Sony. Do you see that? Uh-huh. Is that a yes? Yes. Okay, and the approval section, is that what you're asking me? Can you go to section 6? I'm at section 6. It says, as read, director Justin Baldoni to direct and to have final cut rights. Picture to be edited of location of his choosing. That's what it says. And that's what you understand to have been the original proposal from Wayfarer, correct? Correct. I'm going to hand you, can you put that one aside? We're going to hand you another document to be marked as Exhibit 2. Giannetti 2. Hudson, before we get into that, Miss Giannetti, what does final cut mean? It means the finished film of the picture of the images. So what is a final cut, right, that you, to your understanding? They are going to decide what is on screen. It's their decision. So if a director has final cut rights, then it is up to the director's discretion what film goes to the screen. Friedman, objection, and correct. Exhibit 2, marked for identification. Hudson, let's turn to Exhibit 2. This is an email from Michael Marshall to Schuler Moore, dated October 14, 2022, to CCing a variety of people, including Miss Giannetti. The subject is, It Ends With Us, proposed Sony co-production term sheet, beginning with Bates stamp SPE _ BL 1995. Who is Michael Marshall? The head of business affairs. And when you mentioned business affairs before, and they are the people that would negotiate the contracts, is that who you were talking about? Correct. And in Mr. Marshall's email, he says, as read, Sky, thanks again for forwarding the proposal and jumping on the phone earlier in the week. And thanks for your patience as we've discussed internally. Attached are Columbia responses. And Columbia, this is Columbia Pictures? Correct. If you turn to the second page, it says at the top, as read, proposal to Columbia Pictures for It Ends With Us. And if you go to the same paragraph 6, do you see where I'm pointing? I do. It says, as read, director Justin Baldoni to direct and, in brackets, to have final cut rights. Picture to be edited at location of his choosing. Columbia customarily doesn't give directors final cut. Is that your understanding that Columbia didn't typically give directors final cut? Correct. And why not? It's a very expensive proposition releasing a film. And so that's a big leap of faith with a big financial investment. So we do not give. It's very hard to get final cut. Are there certain directors to whom you would give final cut? Yes. Like whom? Quentin Tarantino has final cut. And why would a director like Quentin Tarantino get final cut? Friedman, objection. And he's made a lot of successful, highly acclaimed films. and also he controls them. Hudson, and what do you mean by that? It means he writes and he owns them. So if you want to distribute them, he has all the leverage in the deal. Got it. So Mr. Baldoni also owned the script and could make the film. Are you saying that he did not have the same track record of filmmaking as someone like Quentin Tarantino had? Friedman, objection. And no, he did not have the same track record. Hudson, we are going to next mark Exhibit 3. Exhibit 3 marked for identification. Hudson, Exhibit 3 is an email from Schuler Moore to Michael Marshall, dated October 27, 2022, to CCing a variety of people, including Miss Giannetti, starting with Bates stamp SPE BL367. This email from Mr. Moore says, as read, attach, please find a clean and red line proposal with our remaining minor requested changes. Do you see that? I do. And then if you turn to the next page, we're going to look again at that paragraph 6 regarding the director. Do you see that? I do. And in this one, it says, as read, final cut to be determined by bake-off. Do you see that? I do. And then it says, as read, bake-off, okay, provided that it's a blind recruit test screening, and B, Justin's cut scores above 90 to 85 in the top 2 boxes and above 70 in definite recommends. Alternatively, if Justin's cut scores at least 7 points higher in definite recommends than a cut incorporating Columbia's changes, then Justin's cut will also prevail. Friedman, objection. I said, did I read that accurately? You did. What did you understand this to mean? That if Justin and Sony had a disagreement over the cut, there would be a mechanism to determine what would be released. If he met these metrics. And if he didn't meet these metrics, what is your understanding of what would happen? Sony would be able to release the cut, our cut. And the testing in the metrics, is that what a bake-off is? Yeah. Yes. And is it your understanding that if Sony had a cut, there would be testing for Sony's cut as well? Yes. Earlier, we discussed the fact that there was a theme of female empowerment in the film. So it cuts off there. If you would like to watch part 2, the link is available right here. If you enjoyed this deposition, please like and hype. And if you have not subscribed yet, please consider doing so. Thanks.